It's an interesting article by the LA Times. McDonald's is losing its low income customers. Economists call it a symptom of the stark wealth divide. In the early 2000s, after a severe slump, McDonald's orchestrated a major turnaround with the introduction of its dollar menu. The menu, whose items all cost $1, illustrated just how important it was to market to low income consumers who value getting the most bang for their buck. Coming at a time of flagging growth, tumbling stock, and the company's first report of a quarterly loss, the dollar menu reversed the fast food giant's bad fortune. It paved the way for 3 years of sales growth at stores open at least a year and ballooned revenue by 33%, news outlets reported at the time. Industry wide, fast food restaurants have seen traffic from one of its core customer bases, low income households, drop by double digits. McDonald's chief executive Christopher Kempczynski told investors last week. Meanwhile, traffic from higher earners increased by nearly as much, he said. The struggle of the Golden Arches, in particular, long synonymous with cheap food for the masses, reflects a larger trend upending the consumer economy and makes affordability a hot policy topic, experts say. McDonald's executives say the higher cost of restaurant essentials, such as beef and salaries, and have pushed food prices up and driven away lower income customers who already are being squeezed by the rising costs of groceries, clothes, rent, and childcare. With prices for everything rising, consumer companies concerned about the pressure on low-income Americans, include oh inc- include food, automotive, and airline businesses, among others. Analyst Adam Josephson said. The list goes on and on, he said. Happy Meals McDonald's are prohibitively expensive for some people because there's been so much inflation, Josephson said. Josephson and other economists say the shrinking traffic of low income consumers is emblematic of a larger trend of Americans diverging in their spending, with wealthier customers flexing their purchasing power and lower income shoppers pulling back, what some call a K shaped economy. A recent earnings report from Delta offers yet another illustration. While Delta's main cabin revenue fell 5% for the June quarter compared to a year ago, premium ticket sales rose 5%, highlighting the divide between affluent customers and those forced to be more economical. At hotel chains, luxury brands are holding up better than low budget options. Revenue at brands including Four Seasons, Ritz-Carlton, and St. Regis is up 2.9% this year, while economy hotels experienced a 3.1 decline for the same period, according to industry tracker CoStar. There, there are examples everywhere you look, Josephson said. Consumer credit delinquency rates show just how much low income households are hurting, with households that made less than 45,000 annually experiencing huge year-over-year increases, even as delinquency rates for high and middle income households have flattened and stabilized, said Rickard Bandebo, chief strategy officer and chief economist at the Vantage Score. After COVID 19 related stimulus programs ended, these households were the first to experience dramatically increased delinquency rates and haven't had a dip in delinquency since 2022, according to data from Vantage Score on 60-day past due delinquencies from January 2020 to September 2025. And although inflation has come down from its peak in 2022, people are still struggling with relatively higher prices and astronomical rent increases. Bandebo said, when he says, just real quick, astronomical rent increases, that, hey, he's not lying. A report released this year by researchers with Joint Chiefs for Housing Studies of Harvard University found that half of all renters, 22.6 million people, were cost burdened in 2023, meaning they spend more than 30% of their income on housing and utilities, up 3.2 percentage points since 2019 and 9 percentage points since 2001. 27% of renters are severely burdened, spending more than 50% of their income on housing. And that was what I had said during my previous, videos. Like, what's the point of even having a good paying job if all your money goes to where you live? If like the idea, the whole point of money is supposed to be that the more you have it, the more freedom you have to, go where you want, do what you want, buy what you want. But if so much of it, right, half or even more of that goes to just having somewhere to sleep, that's a problem. That's not something I really think makes much sense. As rents have grown, the amount families have left after paying for housing utilities have fallen to record lows. In 2023, renters with annual household incomes under 30,000 had a median of just $250 per month in residual income to spend on other needs, an amount that's fallen 55% since 2001, with the steepest decline since the pandemic, according to the Harvard study. It's getting tougher and tougher every month for low-income households to make ends meet, Bandebo said. Again, pause. They're admitting that renters with annual household incomes under 30,000 have only have $250 to spend on other things. Richest country in the world. Miriam Gergis, a registered nurse at UCLA who also works a second job as a home caregiver, because of course she has a second job, said she's better off than many others and still struggles. I can hardly afford McDonald's, she said, but it's a cheaper option. No, it's not. On Monday morning, she sat in a booth at McDonald's in MacArthur Park with two others. The three beverages they ordered, 2 coffees and a soda, amounted to nearly $20, Gergis said, pointing to the receipt. I'd rather have healthier foods, but when you're on a budget, it's difficult, she said. And it's like, imagine paying $20 for 2 coffees and a soda. And I know she's not lying, because I went and got a coffee from there and it was like $6. So you add another one, right? That's 12, and then the soda, or even if you get some other type of drink, it's easily close to $20. Again, just for drinks. He would rather go hungry than eat outside, Gergis. Her brother, who works as a cashier, can't afford meals out at all, she said. The cost of his diabetes medication has increased greatly to about $200 a month, which she helps him cover. He would rather go hungry than eat outside, Gergis said. The bank closed his credit cards due to non-payment, she said, and he may lose his housing soon. Prices at limited service restaurants, which include fast food restaurants, are up 3.2% year over year, at a rate higher than inflation. That's climbing, said Marissa Di Natale, an economist at Moody's Analytics. On top of that, price increases because of tariffs disproportionately affect lower-income households, because they spend a greater portion of their income on goods rather than services, which are not directly impacted by tariffs. Wages are also stagnating more for these households compared to higher and middle-income households. So what they're saying is that the more money that the less money that you have, the more likely you are to spend on just things you need to survive, and that includes food, which, because of the tariffs, are increasing in their price, and because there's a larger amount of lower income people trying to get food, they're being affected by it more than a rich person who could just have, I don't know, their chef at their house make something. It's sick. It has always been the case that more well-off people have done better, but a lot of the economic and policy headwinds are disproportionately affecting lower-income households, and McDonald's losing lower-income customers is a reflection of that. Then Natale said it makes sense then that any price increases would hit these consumers hard. According to a corporate fact sheet from 2019 to 2024, the average cost of a McDonald's menu item rose 40%. The average price of a Big Mac in 2019, for example, was $4.39, rising in 2024 to $5.29, almost a whole dollar, according to the company. A 10-piece McNuggets meal rose from $7.19 to $9.19 in the same period. So that's like $1. That's like basically $1 for these little itty-bitty nuggets. They love ripping people off. The company says these increases are in line with the cost of running a restaurant, including soaring labor costs and high prices of beef and other goods. Beef prices have skyrocketed, with inventory of the U.S. cattle herd at the lowest in 75 years because the toll of drought and parasites, and exports of beef bound to U.S. are down because of President Trump's trade war and tariffs. As a result, the prices of ground beef sold in supermarkets is up 13% in September, year over year. McDonald's also has placed blame on the meat packing industry, accusing it of maneuvering to artificially inflate prices in a lawsuit filed last year against the industry's big four companies, Tyson, JBS, Cargill, and the National Beef Packing Company. The companies denied wrongdoing and paid tens of millions of dollars to settle lawsuits alleging price fixing. McDonald's chief financial officer Ian Borden said in a recent earnings call the company has managed to keep expenses from getting out of control. The strength of our supply chain menus, our beef costs are, I think, certainly up less than most. Yeah. I mean, it can be up less than most and people still want to buy it because it's too expensive. McDonald's did not disclose how the company gauges the income levels of fast food customers. Of course they don't. But businesses often analyze the market by estimating the background of their customers based on where they are shopping and what they are buying. In California, the debate around fast food prices has centered on labor costs, with legislation going into effect last year, raising the minimum wage for the fast food workers at chains with more than 60 locations nationwide. That was the law passed. I think it went into effect back in like February of last year. That's the one that caused my job to stop giving me the a consistent streak of like, almost 30 hours a week to suddenly it was 3 half shifts, 5 hours 3 days a week, and then by the end it was 2 shifts and then 1 shift, and then just it just kept getting stupider and stupider. But that's where that started. But more than a year after fast food wages were boosted, the impact still is being debated, with economists divided and the fast food industry and unions sparring over its impact. Fast food restaurant owners will trade associations like the International Franchise Association, which spearheaded an effort to block the minimum wage boost, have said businesses have been forced to trim employee hours, institute hiring freezes, or lay people off to offset the cost of higher wages. That what I always find so funny about that is that I'm just gonna say, I think they're full of crap. I think if you are aware that the wages are increasing, you have the option to not hire more people and give the few people you already have some more, a similar number of hours. And it's just I don't believe that a marginal increase of $4 makes it to where, oh man, we have to cut people's hours, and we have to do a hiring freeze, and we have to fire people. No, they don't. They are simply just trying to look for someone else to blame. One of the main nemesises of these damn corporations is people even being able to work there at all. If they had it their way, they would pay you nothing. Let's see here. Meanwhile, an analysis by researchers at UC Berkeley's Center on Wage and Employment Dynamics of some 200,000 restaurants found the $20 wage did not reduce fast food employment and led to minimal menu price increases of about 8 cents on a $4 burger. Labor groups have argued the minimum wage increases gave workers more purchasing power, helping stimulate the economy. McDonald's said last year that spending by the company on restaurant worker salaries has grown around 40% since 2019, while costs for food, paper, and other goods were up 35%. The success of its dollar menu in the early 2000s was remarkable because it came amid complaints of the chain's highly processed, high-calorie, and high-fat products, food safety concerns, and worker exploitation. As the company marketed the dollar menu, which included the double cheeseburger, the McChicken sandwich, french fries, a hot fudge sundae, and a 16-ounce soda, it also added healthier options to its regular menu, including salads and fruit. But the healthier menu did not drive the turnaround. The $1 double cheeseburgers brought in far more revenue than salads or chicken sandwiches, which were priced from $3 to $4.50. Man, imagine being able to get a salad for $3. The dollar menu appeals to lower-income ethnic consumers. Steve Levine, vice president for United States Business Research at McDonald's, told the New York Times 2006, it's people who don't always have $6 in their pocket. The dollar menu eventually became unsustainable, however, with inflation driving up prices. McDonald's stores, particularly fast franchise locations, struggled to afford it, and by November 2013, rebranded it as the dollar menu and more, with prices up to $5. And that's what, I think it's so funny. If you just come out and say we're not there is no dollar menu, that's over, we've abolished it, we can't afford it anymore. But to increase the price 5 times what it was, right, and call it dollar menu and more, it's literal false advertising. It doesn't get any simpler than that. Last year, McDonald's took a stab at appealing to cash-drenched customers with a $5 meal for a McDouble or McChicken sandwich, small fries, small soft drink, and 4-piece McNuggets. And in January, it rolled out a deal offering a $1 menu item alongside an item brought for full price with an ad starring John Cena. Even Thugonomics couldn't save them and launched extra value menus in early September, offering combos costing 15% less than ordering each of the items separately. The marketing didn't seem to immediately resonate with customers of McDonald's and May reporting U.S. same-store sales in the recent quarter declined 3.6% from the year before. However, in its recent third quarter earnings, the company reported a 2.4% lift in sales, even as its chief executive sounded the alarm with the increasingly two-tiered economy. The iconic brand still has staying power, even with prices creeping up, some customers said. Everywhere prices are going up, this is the only place I do eat out because it's convenient, said Ronald Mendez, 32, who said he lives about a block away from the McDonald's in MacArthur Park. D.T. Turner, 18, munched on hash browns and pancakes, with several still-wrapped McMuffins and cheeseburgers sitting on the tray between him and his friend, and totaled. Their haul cost about $45, he said. He eats McDonald's several times a week. We grew up eating it, Turner said. His friend chimed in, the breakfast is great and the nuggets are cool. That other businesses that are reviving deals is a sign of the time. San Francisco-based burger chain Super Duper promoted its recession combo on social media. For $10, customers get fries, a drink, and a recession burger at one of the chain's 19 California locations. I don't know how anybody thinks that's a good deal. Whatever. What's clear, the companies are wary of passing along higher costs to customers, said Detanal of Moody's Analytics. A lot of businesses are saying we just don't think consumers will stand for this, Detanal said. Consumers have been through years of higher prices, and there's just very little tolerance for higher prices going forward. And I agree with that. So what is happening, and this is why, I'm going to end up doing a video where I talk about how companies are psychotic. There's only a certain amount, and this I have to go back to what that relative said, pricing yourself out of the market. But there's only a certain amount of ridiculousness that a consumer is going to put up with before they say, hey, forget it. Now, McDonald's earlier in this very long article had a section where they claimed that where is it? I gotta scroll through the whole thing. They were talking about how, the higher cost of restaurant essentials have pushed food prices up, such as beef and salaries. Look, they can say that. They can claim that, but it's like, they didn't just start raising prices this year. They didn't start it last year. They've been doing this for a while, and I just have a hard time believing that even if that stuff were lower, they would, actually make their stuff cheaper. But what I'm really kind of torn up about is that I fully understand you're not going to get the dollar menu back, right? Things are just so expensive, and they're going to keep claiming, oh, we can't make it that cheap because then we won't make a profit off of it. But the issue is that, putting aside just the price, right? When you look at their food, me and my friend have talked about this at length, my pal I have conversations with, it's simply not worth the price at almost any amount. I didn't do a video on it, but I talked about how one day I was going to my job, and I think I bought it was one of their burgers. I don't know if it was which one could it have been, McDouble or what? Anyways, one of their burgers on their actual menu, and within 3 or 4 hours of eating it, my stomach started to growl. I was like, I know I'm not hungry again. I just had a burger, but they're making this stuff so damn small that you effectively you're putting up with higher prices and less food. It's like, oh, we have our $5 menu. It's like, yeah, you get 2 burgers for $5. And they are the size of a single burger at other places. And even after you eat them, you're, 4 hours, 5 hours hungry because the stuff is just too small. I mean, it's amazing watching these companies just their greed and their refusal to acknowledge where they have gone wrong is really starting to catch up with them. They can blame the tariffs. They can blame, the wage increase. Yeah, that's the reason. It's like, no, you guys, they could be paying their employees $10 an hour, or $7 like they do in certain states like Texas, and they would still, or I should say $7.25. They would still be giving people barely any hours, charging people ridiculous amounts of money for barely any food. This is not something that would be cured if you just stopped having to pay people. Anytime a company wants to be greedy. They're going to have a million different excuses for why, oh, this has to be this price. This has to be this much. And it's just, it's gotten to a point where people are sick of it. Yeah, the rich people are going in there and buying stuff, but I would even say for them, I think they're doing a disservice to themselves. The whole point of fast food, other than it just being something you could grab on the go, was that it was inexpensive, right? There was a time where you could get, again, stuff for under $6. Now you damn near can't even find anything on the menu that's $6, and if you do, it's some little itty bitty burger that is so damn small. The only way to get full is to eat two of them, and that's the issue. That in making their prices smaller, they've made their food smaller as a purposeful attempt to stop people from being full off of one, to incentivize them to buy more of the crap. It's really I guess an example would be if I were, let's say, a place that sold chicken. And I said, and it's like, let's say it's 2001. Hey, come in here and get a full chicken for $6. And people are like, oh damn, a full chicken? You get the the whole thing. And then after, what is it like? What year are they blaming it? 2022. I'm like, oh, you can get half a chicken for $6. And you're looking at this, you're like, man, I remember we used to be able to get a full chicken for that same price. And they're like, oh, well, you could still get enough for a full chicken. You just have to buy another one. So you see how they've really raised the price in this example of a full chicken to $12. They just want to like pretend that their stuff is affordable by giving you the option of just basically making it to where if you buy one, they know it's not enough. So you're going to have to buy more to possibly get full. It's really disgusting because I mentioned that Burger King used to be one of my main places to go to back when I was in like high school, for example, and I was disgusted earlier this year. I've only been to them once in the last, I think, 3 or 4 years, but I was so grossed out when I went there, and they charged me $16 for a burger. And I said to myself, McDonald's really is not that much better in that they're the only thing variance they have is that they're more like covert about it. So their strategy is, we're going to make our food so goddamn small that people have to order multiple, like more than one of it to be full, which in turn means that they're going to get a price that's pretty similar to what they'd get from the slop at these other fast food chains. It's gross. It's a real exploitative game. And the only solace I take is that hopefully more and more people, even those rich ones that are able to afford this stuff, are gonna look at it and say, yeah, this is a ripoff. It's all just a big giant scam.